So Emma, thank you so much for joining us today. We know that you have got so much going on at the moment with a brand new album and a film as well. So I was wondering if you could start off by telling us a little bit about what's been inspiring you recently, especially with the album.
So the album, it's funny, like the album, we recorded it about 5 years ago in December 2018, and then a number of things happened to slow down the pace, not to mention the plague that has afflicted us all. So that kind of led on a bit of a tangent to then start thinking, well, how can we, promote this or tour this when we may not physically be able to tour? And my partner, who's the bassist in the band, suggested that I make a movie, and so that just that just started a whole other project essentially.
Wow.
A movie called Fighting Paradise, which we shot in Ewah, Tasmania.
So the album itself, it explores the meaning of paradise. Why was that a topic that yourself and the band wanted to explore?
So generally, like the themes and songwriting kind of starts with me, and I'll bring something to the band. And I think like I've performed solo in the past, so with the band, I've sort of set kind of topics or concepts that are less personal, so to delve into. So the first album was looking at victims of violent crime against women, and then telling them as kind of ghost stories in a way. And then this album, I started thinking about places of paradise in the world, and then that kind of led me to think, well, what's the opposite of that? Well, hellish places of purgatory. And so, and of course, the environmental crisis that we face is very prescient. So that kind of, was very much kind of at the front of my mind as well. So it kind of skews the whole topic as well. So I guess I was looking at places of paradise and hell and purgatory on Earth, and also thinking about a world in crisis, and also very much like with the environment is the main kind of focus point of that.
Definitely. And how much do you think living in Tasmania helped that as well? Because I'm a Tassie boy originally as well, and I know with Tasmania, it's got this visual beauty that is unlike anywhere else in the world. But then when you explore places like Port Arthur, it's got a very dark past, and you've also had a lot of environmental vandalism happen through the years as well. Do you think living in Tasmania kind of helped with that idea as well as of heaven and hell?
Yeah, I definitely think so. And you can't sort of duck away and avoid things that are going on in Tasmania. There's nowhere to hide. It's a small community, so it's like a small town amplified in a way across the state, and so you're like, you have to kind of face up to things that are going on. So whether it be salmon farming, and Richard Flanagan sort of highlighted issues with environmental impact of that in his book Toxic, or we've got those past things like Franklin and like Pedar, and then then of course we've got a terrible history with our First Nations people in Tasmania. So there's all these kind of scars and baggage that's kind of just there in the ether. But then, with this backdrop of incredible stark beauty, Tasmania is just that little bit further south than Melbourne and Victoria. So the light's kind of different. It really does have its very own particular atmosphere.
Yeah, I remember talking to a friend a few years ago who went down to Tassie, and he sent me all these photos from Wineglass Bay, and he said, "Oh, what a beautiful place!" And I said, "Do you know how it got its name?" And he said, "No, I have no idea." And when I told him about the history of whaling, he was absolutely shocked. He had no idea at all. He said, but it's such a beautiful place.
Yeah, I know. You could be sort of muse, oh, it must be the shape of the bay itself, and then no, it's actually because of all the whale blood
Yeah.
that was in the bay. Yeah.
So, Emma, tell us a little bit about the film itself. How easy was it to take, or hard was it to take the music that you had written and then do a film around that, especially coming up with the concept?
So I worked with the team that I had worked with to do the video for Arcadia, which is essentially we kind of started with the idea of a couple of Nicholas Roeg films actually, The Man Who Fell to Earth and Walkabout, and it sort of started with me, what I thought The Man Who Fell to Earth would be. Like, I just thought it would be David Bowie as an alien just walking around the landscape. I didn't realise, so then I watched the film. But anyway, so I just like the idea of a loner in a landscape, exploring, and somehow that kind of, the presence of the person maybe makes you notice things about the landscape. It kind of creates a dialogue. So we kind of ran with that, the theme that started with the Arcadia video, and there was like a rock that I kind of held to navigate with. So for some reason this rock has some kind of cosmic power that helps to navigate in this world, and we just kind of we sat together and workshopped broader ideas and created chapters, and also the album itself kind of informed the structure in that it had always been from like a dusk light through to a golden light. So there was always this arc of a colour tone, from darkness through to a golden light that we had as a shape to work with. And then we kind of thought about textures and landscapes and wanted to find textures or like elements that kind of fit to each of the songs or chapters. So it might have been a kind of western frontier sort of gritty, gravelly texture, or it might have just been only rocks. So we wanted it to feel very a simplified texture and element, and also maybe a sense of claustrophobia, until it maybe opens out a little bit later in the film.
So, was it a tough shoot? Because you did so much as well. Not only did you work on the music for the film, you're in the film, but you also cooked for the crew every day as well. Was it a tough shoot?
I was quite exhausted by the end of it, but it's like you feel, I personally feel like the most alive, and like all like facets of my being are kind of tapped into, and that I'm, really, it's something, I think like film and music are mediums where you can really like use a lot of, tap into a lot of creative energies, so thinking of visual, of music, words, all of those things, and so many other elements. It's aesthetics and storytelling, plus all the kind of the logistical kind of producer kind of stuff I did, and then being the kind of the mama at the beginning and the end of the day, and just like feed, eat. So, yeah.
You also shot in winter as well in Tasmania. I know that weather plays a really big part when you're shooting a film. Did the weather cause any issues, or did it actually help because you were able to get those great shots of clouds and mist and things like that?
Yeah, we lucked out in certain regards. For example, when we shot up on Turbana, Ben Lomond in the north, sort of inner north of Tasmania, it's a very high mountain, and it's also a ski area.
Yep.
So it can get very heavy snows. When we went up there, it was clear and blue and beautiful, and just some kind of passing atmospheric cloud. Then within a few days, it it actually snowed all the way down to sea level. So we kind of lucked out in that regard. But the first shoot that we did was out in the kind of depths of winter and July in an area of Tasmania, which is out in Queenstown, which has been very scarred by a mining history. So it kind of basically poisoned the habitat and turned it into a moonscape. It's starting to slowly spring back. But that's known as one of the wettest places, I think, in Australia. So it rains more than it doesn't. And we just we're just second guessing whether we should go out, and we're just going to plunge in. And the week before, it had this very unusual week of clear blue skies. We went out and it was just squall after squall after squall. And we just kind of ended up getting in this kind of simpatico with the weather, and like going in to our Airbnb and then out to shoot and back in and out and kind of drying off, and but we sort of just went with the waves of the weather sort of shooting. And but it was pretty hard to avoid getting rather drenched.
Yeah. So the big question now is, where will people be able to get a copy of the album, but where will they also be able to watch the film?
Yeah, so we're lucky enough to work with Part-Time Records for this release. So they work with Remote Control, who've distributed it around Australia. So hopefully your local record store might have a copy, or you could ask them and they could order it in. It's also up on Bandcamp and Part-Time Records website. The film, I don't have distribution, so I'm just really doing it kind of piecemeal as I can. So we're going to show it at Bunbury Picture House in Melbourne on the 3rd of May, and then in Tassie in Hobart on the 14th of May. And I'll just see what I can piece together from there. And that's, we'll just see. So keep your eyes peeled and tune in, and hopefully it'll just sort of keep popping up across the rest of 2022.
Definitely. And how do you feel now that it's about to be released out to the public? Are you feeling excited, or are you feeling nervous?
It's been such a long time coming, and when the album first came out, I was actually really unwell. So I just felt a bit delirious and kind of removed from the process in a way, just sort of like I was looking from afar. But it is exciting to be showing the film. I don't know, I haven't done it with a wide audience yet, so I just hope that people like it, or they feel like they have permission to laugh if they want to. I hope it goes okay.
Definitely. Well, Emma,
it's a new and nerve-wracking venture, is what I should say.
Definitely. Well, Emma, what would you like to say to everybody out there who is about to watch the film or is about to listen to the album?
I hope, Micah, thank you for listening, basically. Thank you for listening. To find something in this world of saturated media, if you find it, and then to sit down and listen, well, thank you, and I hope you enjoy it.